Hi, my name is Patrick Lindstrom and I'm with Kelly's Delight, and I want to show you a couple ways that we do ribs at my house, and hopefully it'll help your process as well. Let's first start with just the ribs itself. So when you get your ribs, this is a St. Louis style ribs. What I like to do is trim it up a little bit, get some of the fat off. You can trim up this fat here, right here, and get some of that out. This stuff, people say it adds taste, but this stuff actually doesn't cook that well. So some people like to trim it off and they like to set it to the side and get rid of it. But what I like to do is, I don't really mess with that as much. There's some fat that bothers me, but that really doesn't. I'm gonna turn it over. Some people like to, what's called, right here, if you look at the rib, you see this here, there's a membrane on this, okay? So there's a thin layer right here that's just a membrane. And then you also have here, you see a strip of meat, and this will stick up. And what people like to do is they like to trim this off. This is actually cut pretty well. People like to cut off this fat too, this stuff too. But you could trim on this all day, and you could be here for hours. So we're not gonna worry about that. One thing I do like to do is I cut this little piece of meat off at the end. People say it burns, but for me, I just like a little snack when I'm cooking. So when I season everything, stick it on the grill, I know that piece is gonna cook before everything else does. So I like a little snack. All right, so that's the prep. What I'm gonna show you, and what people have problems with if you've ever cooked ribs, the biggest problem you have is with keeping the seasoning on the ribs. You put it on the ribs, you put it on the grill, and you're cooking it, and most of your seasoning is in your grill and not on your ribs. So let's try to keep you from having that issue. So when I'm cooking ribs, the seasoning I like to use is a Montreal steak seasoning, and then I also use a pork rub. These things are great for me. I like to use a 2-to-1 ratio, 2 to 1. And if you've ever seasoned ribs, you put the seasons on, you put it on the grill, and those seasons just fall right into the grill, and you're wondering why you're even buying seasoning at that point. So here's a solution that we have and that we use in our household, is we take Kelly's Delight and we combine these two to make a paste that goes really well on ribs. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So I know you guys like measurements, so here's your measurement for you. You like that? It's fantastic, isn't it? All right, and then I grab some pork rub and I measure it out just like that. Nice, huh? Yeah, you like that. All right, so I take a fork and just stir this up, kind of mix it up some. Get the seasonings all good to go. All right, and then I'll take a bottle of Kelly's Delight and pour it in there. Now, this does add, of course, a taste of sweetness, which is really good. It gives you that sweet rib taste, but it doesn't overpower anything. It just emphasizes the seasonings that you're using. So mix that in there. All right. Take a brush, and we're gonna start. Oh yeah, we're gonna start on the bottom actually. Flip this over. All right. I'm gonna take a brush and just start pasting it and lathering it on there. Now, the one problem people talk about with sugar is they're worried about it caramelizing too much where it's burnt. And what you wanna do is you wanna make sure you're not cooking your ribs that hot anyway. If you're cooking it that hot, then you need to lower the temperature, because ribs need to be slowly cooked. Even on a grill, I recommend doing it on the side, not right underneath, not right over the flame. That way you can keep it from burning. But just coat it up, nice and thick. Don't worry about getting it too much. I'm telling you, people love my ribs. So, and then the best way to do this, if you had time, you would put it on a smoker. But since we don't have time, and most of you guys don't have a smoker, I'm gonna show you how to do it on a grill. So, all right, get that, turn it over. Make it nice and fine. Now, if it gets to a point where you're running out, it's not as liquidy as it was before, it's not as thin as it was before, and it seems like it's more granular, what you want to do is add a little bit of Kelly's Delight, and then that'll solve that problem. But look at that. This is all the seasoning that you would have put on, and it would have just came right off your ribs. So now it's not. It's going to be on there. All right. I think we're good. And sometimes what I do is in the middle of the process, if I have anything left over in the middle of the process, I'll go and season it again, you know, about a quarter of the way in just to do it. But really, I do it once and call it a day. It's usually pretty good. So let's check in when we're done doing this. Our ribs are done. Couple things I want to tell you about this process. Number one, if you're looking, you ain't cooking. So don't look at your ribs, keep opening, seeing if they're done. Cook them nice and slow at a low temperature. 225 is probably prime. All right, if you look at this, you can see it's a nice, good cook all the way through. You see the dark, you see a little bit of caramelization going on. And so we're gonna turn this over and look at the skin, right? Now when we flip it over, we can see the membrane. As you can see, it's a nice, beautiful color. It's been caramelized. It's one of the reasons that's one of the reasons I like having the membrane on there. It does give it a little taste. You can pull it off as well, and it's just gonna look just as nice, but as you can see, it's nice and caramelized. Everything's cooked through. For instance, this piece is not burnt. This is a caramelized texture to it, so this is gonna be really, really good. Let's cut into it and see what it looks like. Now usually I let these things sit for 10 to 15 minutes just to let them cool off and let the juices get to where they're supposed to be. But for you guys, I have to start cutting. All right, so we're gonna go over here. You can see the bones. The bones, if you're feeling it, I like cutting from the bottom side because you can tell where the bones are. And if you cut it right there, you can see it's nice and beautiful. All right. All right, let's take a look at that. As you can see, it's just a beautiful, beautiful rib. Let's see how this tastes. So juicy, so juicy, really good. And the liquid sugar, perfect sweetness on it.